everyone, this is ACryInShame, part of the Long John Divide team, bringing you some more Factorio. This is episode 16 we're currently working on. And as you can see here, I'm looking around a little bit, trying to see some iron and whatnot, and the big thing that I've realized is we are all out of alien artifacts. So I'm going to go ahead and travel over to the side here. I'm going to extend the other side a little bit with some concrete. I'm definitely going for my car, placing that down, fueling it up, realizing I don't have anyone with me. So I gotta pick up some coal here and yeah, do that real quick. Alright, so we're gonna go find some biters. We're having issues because we haven't really been fighting biters all that much. We kinda killed them all, and yeah. So I had to go hunt them down. I was able to find a base down here. Got some turrets to help me out. Right as I start placing them down, I realized I was a little late on the placement and had to torch them as I could, do some damage on them. So I got some damaged turrets now. This was a little tough because even though I had the flamer, there's so many of them that I keep having to run back because the medium biters take chunks out of my health and I can't take them out as easy as I could the small biters. Which I mean, makes sense, I was thinking of actually running down a line of laser turrets, but I decided it would be far too long for me to do that. So I just kept fighting through it. I was like, alright, I can do this. I got the flamethrower. It'll take some time, a bit of turret creeping. Not complete turret creeping, just enough to have somewhere to run back to. That's all I really need. And I can just pot shot them with flame shots. Just pew, pew, pew. That kind of thing. It's nothing like a flamethrower. I was able to do nice little waves of fire at them. Just, torch them out. Now there's going to be a lot of this. I take on this base here. I take on a few other bases using the same basic technique of just torching them. And all of a sudden I realized there's a whole other base there. Completely blindsided me. I'm like, oh crap. But yeah, this is pretty much I was just torching everything I could. Just torching as I go. It took me a little while to really get the hang of it and getting it going. Did a quick save as well because I hadn't saved, actually saved my own in a while. I was doing autosave and stuff, but it was right after that autosave. So yeah, it had been a little while since the save, so I wanted to make sure that I was saved before I died because I was getting pretty close to dying. I didn't want to start over everything I was doing if I did happen to die. So I go ahead, take out those worms first because they're a pain, and then take out that last building and realize there's a whole other base over there too. So there's another extension on the side here as well. So we were literally hit the middle of 3 bases. So I torch those guys out like freaking cockroaches. I'm taking a few hits here. The medium biters are getting through. I had to keep switching out to my gun because it's easier to kill individual targets that way. Had to do a bit of turret creeping again because they had the spitters and it kept hitting me. Spitters were a little annoying. They weren't too tough necessarily. They were just a little annoying. Be really careful with the flamethrower as well because I don't want to torch my towers. As long as I hit the base, it was done. It would just burn out by itself. Some of the bases had it took 2 hits on the flamethrower, or at least a quick spread on it. But most of the time it was just a quick, tap and it would go out all by itself. And it seems a little broken, but I mean, power armor is far more broken than the flamethrower is. Flamethrower just allows it so you don't have to turret creep. To be completely honest, otherwise I would just turret creep. I would just have a bunch of turrets and slowly move forward, and it's a pain in the ass. It takes a lot of time, and it's not fun. Turret creeping isn't fun, and I think that's the biggest kick. Is it's not fun to do. At least with the flamethrower, it's challenging, but it works. It is a solution to burning them out. I mean, I used a flamethrower even before it was actually fire on the ground that burnt things, just because it was really good at taking out the buildings. It just did so much damage in such a small amount of time. It just didn't work very well when it came to fighting groups because it was single target like a gun was. You would think of a big spread of flame and whatnot and take out a bunch of units, but it didn't do that. And so a lot of people just hated that for they just hated the flamethrower, period. And it wasn't really the flamethrower's fault in the case of damage or anything. It was just the case of it didn't have any spread, and so it made it useless to taking out those bases in that sense, but did a lot of damage, so it was great for taking out bases, and if you had enough armor, you could just torch through the gargantuans. So go ahead and drop off the artifacts here so you can start crafting some of the science pack 4s, or yes, alien science packs. Then I started thinking of like what we can get working on next, and I realized that the copper isn't quite really set up because it's kind of sorting correctly, but I wanted to have it where the lines focused more on one side than the other. And what I mean by this is I wanted them to focus more on the copper that was coming from the mining drills than the copper that was coming from the train. Because, I was trying to get rid of all the copper that was in the base. So I needed to make sure that the iron there was, or the copper there was being pulled at a much higher rate. So I was setting this up that if the top line was able to detect 4 pieces of copper, so, one for each spot, that means the belt was full, and thus the belt was full, and thus there's no reason to pull from the bottom because the top had plenty. And then if it wasn't full, like right now, like it's not a full belt, so you can see the bottom belt kind of like sneaking in there, a few hits here and there. But then as soon as it all fills up, you can see that the bottom belt is no longer pulling. It's only the top belt until it runs out again, and then the bottom belt starts pulling. This way it keeps with the maximum amount of copper going into the system, but it focuses mainly on the top belt pushing through, not the bottom belt. All you have to do for that is you have it where copper is less than 4, and then you set the top belt to hold and scan belt. So it holds the full value of 4, or however many items are on the belt at all times. Otherwise it would just pulse once when it hit that number. But you don't really want pulse. Like pulse is for like calculation stuff, and there's different triggers for what you use pulse for. As you can see here, I saw that the science pack 3s weren't getting the copper, not steel. Not iron copper, it's steel. The steel that it needs. And I followed the line to find the steel pack and saw that it wasn't getting enough iron into it as well. That is, like, it wasn't processing enough. Or, sorry, it wasn't getting enough iron. It was the case of there wasn't enough steel furnaces producing the steel. So I was trying to line it up and trying to set it up, and I realized that in order to do so I need to move things around. So I'm sitting here trying to move where the iron is put into the logistic system so that I could change things around so that things would then, the iron would then be processed into steel. So I did have that issue. So I worked on that a little bit, tried to get the iron moved around a bit. That was the gist of this particular section of it. Like, I was just trying to get things working again, trying to get more steel into the system because we weren't getting enough in there. We weren't making enough science. I need the science to process so I can get the silo up. Need to get that silo up. Still working on that. It's getting closer and closer and closer. I'm trying to finish a series, Get the series finished. And then if we want to mess around afterwards, we mess around afterwards. But I want to be like, hey, I finished. Completed the game. It's all on video. I shared it with everybody. Share the experience with you guys. So I got the iron set up so that it pulls into the boxes, and then everything pulls onto the belt, and then those put into boxes. So this is just a separate section, just like the other steel up here, and it was just feeded into the system. So of course I then removed that steel there so that that would feed into the belt where we already have those set up, and then we just have that whole section down here to feed into the steel production for the logistics system. So everything that wasn't attached to that belt would then be fed accordingly. So go ahead and check things out here. I dropped some steel down just to get the production running because it's going to take a little bit for everything kind of equalize. And then I see like this whole line here that was producing, that literally this entire line is just for my ammo. Like, I don't need that much backup for it. So I have changed it so that it kind of stops here, and it'll equalize a lot sooner than if I waited for both lines to fill, because there's no reason for it, especially when I'm splitting it into the copper line anyway. The only point for it was for our ammo. I didn't want to take it off and like add to the logistics system, just because it would add more complications to it. It's already set up, it's already working, so I don't want to really mess with it yet until I come to the point of tearing everything down. But once again, I keep mentioning it, it will happen. I promise you it will happen. So then, and this, like I said, I do promise to do it, and I start with the trees, getting these trees out of the way. So I want to create a crafting grid in this section here, but I need to move everything out of the way that's currently there. So I need to get the iron out of the way, I need to get the copper out of the way, I need to get the trees out of the way, I need to get the storage things out of the way. So I have to move things around, and that's what I'm working on. I'm trying to get those storage units out of the way. So I'm putting down storage units that I have in my inventory, getting the deconstruct order up so they can just move those out of the way, put those away, checking to see our robots as well. It is producing, because we are using all the robots for this construction setup here where we're taking apart. So I'll go ahead and put down some more storage units. I'll make sure we have enough storage for all the items that we're pulling. Let me go ahead, I'm filling this up, well, more like putting the order to fill it up, taking apart everything. And then I accidentally click on the ground here, and then I realize it's a pain to kind of remove the X's after they're down on the ground. I now know what I can do to not do that. Like, you can put up where you were to place them down. You can, I think it's shift left click on each of the X's to remove them, so long as you're at a point where you're placing down a tile. And I'm pretty sure that's how that worked. But yeah, I figured out later what you could do rather than removing the tiles and placing the tiles back down to fix it. So here I go with the crafting grid. I know I saw me working on the crafting grid before, and this is just a setup where you can assign each item, each factory to do something, and you apologize. You can assign each factory to create something, and then you just set up the requester chest to request those items required to make that item. It's pretty straightforward, and it's pretty easy to set up. The only thing is, it's super dependent on robots. Like, super dependent. You have to use robots to make the system work correctly. So, that was kind of the downfall of it. And I think really hard about if that's really what I want to do in the long run. Because I kind of want to have it where major things that I need to create a lot of are all crafted off the belt. This way I have plenty of them, and I'm not required to use the robots to craft them. Where items like power poles and the chests, and mining drills and stuff like that, I can throw them into the crafting grids and have an amount that needs, like, that. When there's X amount in the system, I no longer need to craft anymore. Like, that's perfectly fine. But when it comes to the things I need to craft a lot of, like super amounts of, such as belt, like I need to craft tons of belt, and I can't rely on the robots to get that crafted, like get the materials to it fast enough to keep up with my demand of the use of it. So I don't want to do that. Or anything that requires anything to use for science. Like, I don't want to require that either. I mean, it's enough that I use them for moving the science from one location to another to put it on from one belt to another, really. But it's not the same as getting all the components into the correct boxes in order to craft. Like, I really don't want to work with that. I'd rather throw them on the belt. It's just more reliable that way, to throw them on the belt. And there comes a point where I destroy everything. Yeah, I do this several times. I'm trying to think of, like, how big I want it, where do I want to place things, so on and so forth, going back and forth with ideas. I mean, it's a real waste of time, and I'm sorry that if this part of it's kind of boring, where it's like, oh look, ACryInShame's destroying everything again. I know it's annoying. Even I think it's annoying. I'm the one who's doing it. Like, I'm just like, come on, dude. Like, just make up your mind. What do you want? What do you want to do? Plan it out and just freaking do it, man. But I go back and forth on that a little bit. It takes a bit to kind of decide what I want to do. I also wanted to fix the copper line so that it's no longer in the way of what I was doing. So I go ahead and I do that. I fix the copper line, get that working correctly. Because I noticed that I wasn't really pulling like it should, and that it's kind of in the way of the walkway that I want to set up. And then I have these grids, like I have up top with the what is that called? The oil setup, the oil rigs and stuff I have up north. I like the whole idea of having the caution as a kind of a location of, hey, here's where buildings are, please don't be in this area kind of thing. And here's an idea I have. For this section, I have an idea of setting up a grid, a section, a whole network for logistics purely for crafting, so that all the robots in that one section is only used for crafting. That's not going to jump between the other sections. So if you see here, I'm kind of measuring out like where it needs to go for that, and then I mark up north like where the line is, because I want to have it where I know exactly where the line is, because what I have to do is I have to make it so that the items are provided to the network without connecting the two networks. This is the whole idea where it's like you have the requester chest requesting the items into provider chests that are in that square for the crafting square. So we'll go with, logistics network versus the crafting network. So you have the requester chest in the logistics network requesting the items for the crafting network. And you have inserters pull from those and put them into provider chests for the crafting network. And you do the reverse for crafting into logistics network. Now the whole idea of this is that there are dedicated robots that for the amount that you need for your crafting network. They're dedicated just to do crafting. To get from items from one crafting grid area to another crafting grid area. That's it. And it makes it so your crafting section is like pristine, like it works the way it's supposed to work the entire time. As much as I like that fact that that is something that you can do and it's like the most productive you can do, it kind of comes to a point at this stage I don't really have the robots I would like to have to get that to work correctly. But I do start dedicating some of these assembly machines, or factories as I call them, into crafting the certain items I need a lot of, that I use a lot. And not necessarily the ones that I like. For instance, I throw on there the circuits, the advanced circuits and the standard circuits, and all the materials required to get them, and I go on and on with this. But in all actuality, I should throw these guys on the belt. It was a case of trying to move things around and trying to get things into like the crafting grid state. This is me. This is the first time I ever tried using this crafting grid that I thought of some time ago. Like, I thought of this idea, really liked the idea, and just never really got into setting it up before. So the fact that I'm doing this on camera is very, it's kind of heart-wrenching to me a little bit, because I'm throwing my idea out there. Like, I've never tested it. I don't even know if it works correctly or if it's a better setup than the belt setup. I was trying to think of something alternative to always using the bus. And I keep thinking of, what other ways can you set a crafting setup that isn't either spaghetti or bus? Like, it actually is a logistic setup that works well for what it needs to do, but isn't a bus, isn't a straight line with branches off of it. I know the whole bus, and I call it a tree because, in all honesty, it's a trunk with branches. That's a tree. That's what a tree is. I mean, even actual network trunks are considered a bus, and I get it. I know why it's called that. It's a tree. It has a trunk, which is the support line where everything goes into, and then the individual pieces branch off into the respective factories, or I keep calling them factories. They're called assembly machines, but I call them factories because they're factories. All right, things go in it, production goes out of it. It's a freaking factory. But yeah, it's a tree setup. It's a tree design, if nothing else. But I don't know. I was trying to think of other things to do, and I saw this chain setup before, where you create a chain, but I didn't really like that too much. Didn't like that much at all. So as you saw, I was checking the science setup, making sure that it was running correctly, and I didn't see any issues. And here's what I was talking about before. See, we had the requester chests, they put it into provider chests, and that's what works. I would request all the items required for the crafting grid, and then the robots would come and drop them off. Other than later find out that in order to make that work correctly, I need a chest per item requested. And I was like, yeah, that might be a little complicated, because if they, like for instance, if they filled up on steel because I was low on iron, or if, sorry, they filled up on iron, I was low on steel, then the chest that was providing the steel would no longer provide steel, because the other side of it, the ones in the crafting grid, would be full of iron, and thus the whole system would just back up. So we need a separate setup per item that you need in your crafting grid. I was like, yeah, it's a little much. I don't know, it's something can be done, but still is a little much. I think this is the point where I realized that it can back up and cause issues, and I'm like, okay, I need to work on that a little bit, make restrictions and stuff like that. And of course I was thinking about the restrictions here, and the first thing I thought of was like, oh, I can only do one condition statement. That's a pain. So here it is, where I'm just like, alright, I need to set this up. It's like, you're doing iron. This is an iron, just for you, buddy. This is just iron. Take out the steel. Yeah. Make the next one. Yeah, there we go. There, remove everything else. Keep that iron. So yeah, this is where I realized I need to separate them. Still doing the research. It's chewing through the research. All our rocket shooting speed too. Before this, Hilo didn't need the full rocket shooting speed, an earlier version, so it's kind of interesting that now they have the rocket speed. I mean, it makes sense with the rocket, you know. It's an upgrade for the rocket. It makes sense. I'm not gonna, like, you know, moan about it. It's just now it takes longer to get to the rocket because of that, and I guess that's why they put those achievements, like, make a rocket in 2 hours and stuff like that. It's like, well, I mean, if I was really focused on it, I could do it. Like, I have kind of pretty much already done that before. So I'm not too worried about that. Same thing with like the train one, where you have to do the train in the rocket's in 16 hours, I think it is. Let me check. Alright, as you can see, I saw that the trains aren't working, so I went and got on my car and went and go fix the trains. Obviously, what just made me think about the whole train thing, the achievements for the train. So I realized the trains aren't really being fueled correctly. They are crashing into each other. They're not working correctly, and I'm just like, I was really stupid with the setup. I didn't set it up for multiple trains like I should have, so I really had no one to blame but myself on that one. And I know it was really stupid of me, but I was trying to make a quick setup, you know? I wasn't trying to, you know, make it work forever. I knew it was a thing I had to fix, so I was like, well, I'm not going to fix it now. So I'm working on getting that set up, you know. I got the trains back to where they're supposed to be. This is an autosave moment here. You can see like we're kind of jumped a little bit, so yeah. So I go ahead, working on getting the train set up, the second line for the train. And this is kind of where I need to make the network set up correctly. And if I remember correctly, I think I run out of rail and don't get to complete the second line. I think I complete the second line in another episode. So research finished again. So we're really chewing through the research now. Like, we got it all nice and set up. Okay, I run out of rail at this point, so I'm like, oh great, I have to go get more rail. I just threw some solid fuel in there. I was like, alright, it's time to go back and get some rail. Gotta go get more. But of course, even with that whole setup going, it's like, alright, I need to fix this so it's properly fueled, things are properly set up. So I'm looking at things, seeing what can be taken apart. Like, I'm doing so many things right now. Like, working on the crafting grid, working on the solar panel setup, I'm working on the rail setup. I'm doing a bunch of things at once. This is where it'd been like really nice to play with somebody and be like, hey, you go do the rail system, get that set up. I'm going to do the crafting grid, and then later on we can both work on the power to get that up and running. Like, and the thing is, I also wasn't really working on goals this time around. Like before in the earlier episodes, I'm like, alright, today we're going to do this, 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 and this. Well, I came to a point where I just started playing, just playing the game, just doing whatever. And this is that point where I just kind of do whatever. I stopped really going with the plan, because my plan right now is get the science completed. That is my plan right now. I'm just trying to finish the science. That's what I want to do. I just want to get it done. So it's kind of at a point of I just want to finish researching all the way up to rocket. But, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into that. So I'm just trying to do other things while that's still, crafting through. I mean, what I could do if I really wanted to, completely turn my focus into science is to tear everything down, right? And just put up a section, full-on sections that just do science, and then go and just burn every biter village I can find for miles. So this way I get all the science I could possibly get, and then after that start redoing everything else. That would be the ultimate, superb, super science stuff, which I really don't need. So I see here that's all done, so I just, mark it for deconstruction and walk away. So here's a point where I start working on a solar grid. I'm going to get a solar field set up, then get some extra power kind of running, and we're not constantly using just our fossil fuels. I mean, there's plenty of space down here. I got the landfill working, so I can just easily fill this area up as I see fit. There's no reason to not use this area to, put some solar fields down. I've been crafting them for a while, might as well start using them. They're not doing anything by themselves. Just sitting there in the box. So I start, clearing out everything, get everything all set up, just for our crafting grid, for our solar grid. I do notice at this point, if you look at the iron on the left side of the screen, the whole top row of that iron field is completely gone. I do take that apart later, but I don't think I do it on this episode. I'm pretty sure I didn't actually get around to noticing that. And yeah. So this part here, I know there's a particular grid that you can fit the closest amount of solar panels together. I also realized I was out of particular materials to craft what I wanted to craft, which was the power poles. So I was like, alright, now I'm going to go all over here, grab the materials I need to craft some darn power poles. Then it was like this network's now filled up again, and just no longer crafting, and so my whole solution for the steel definitely did work. It actually worked so well that it backed up the steel. So we're good, So I noticed here that some of the copper is completely done. This whole copper field's really it's finishing up at this point. We're clearing it all out. Heh, copper field. It's a coal field, not copper. I keep doing that. Say copper when I mean coal, say coal when I mean copper, and say iron when I mean something completely different like steel. Going back and forth and all that. But here we go, doing the crafting grids. This is me doing it again. I keep saying these things, knowing full well it's not right. Doing the solar grids. So I place them all down. Now this is all set up just for the robots to fill out for us. Of course, I then slowly realized that the robots really aren't coming. They're all the way out, doing their own thing, and they don't care. It's like, alright, I'm just going to leave them be, and I'm going to place it down myself. A little bit of manual work, Did plenty of manual work before, it wouldn't hurt now. So, start doing that. I was going to check the power. Oh, I do. Okay, so I do realize that whole section was done, so I mark it for deconstruction. I think I deconstructed. Yeah, it's out of the range. So I see them go pick it up. I decided to deconstruct the rest myself because it's out of robot range. I don't feel like putting down another roboport and then powering that too. The roboports are draining a lot of power because they keep charging the robots. So that is something I noticed and I kind of started looking into a little bit. That's why I'm putting down the solar grid and trying to work for other power sources. I can really see the right side of that's really favored, it seems. I'm just realizing that now. So I was talking about the iron. Left go left and right, and the right side seems to be really favored when it comes to the iron. I'm not quite sure why that is. I mean, it's not really that important because I'm definitely creating far more iron. Like, I'm producing iron faster than I'm using it, which is good. That's what I need to do. So, no real complaints there. Just kind of a observation, you know. I'm getting more resources that I'm using, like, at a faster rate. So, still waiting for the copper to go away. Still waiting for this iron deposit there to go away as well. Chew those through. So I made some accumulators earlier. So I went ahead and started placing those down to start accumulating some power as we could use it later. It's kind of a beginning of the pure solar power idea. But that's going to take a lot of time to really get set up to do a pure solar setup. And I think I might do solar setups per area rather than having one big solar field power everything. Mainly because it's easier to predict the amount of power needed in one section than it is to predict the amount of power needed across everything. I don't want to drain power from my main base because I didn't calculate enough, power output for an outpost I create. And I really don't want to do that to myself. And knowing me as I do, that's something I would definitely end up doing to myself. Not like out of, pure stupidity. It's just a case of I had so much rattling around in my head, as you can probably see by watching me in this case. So I decided to try to entice them to build this section for me by placing down a provider chest inside the area. Of course, I now realize it needs to be in the red area for them to do it, because it's not part of the network where it's sitting. It's part of the crafting area. Wow, okay, this was a dumb thing for me to do. I was like, oh, this isn't working, I'll just do it myself. And it's like, it wasn't working because you weren't in the network there, buddy. You weren't in the area in which they could do their job. Good job, past me. Good job. So place it down in hopes that they, actually jump to do it. And I realized it's like, oh, look, they're going to come. And then they just provide me stuff. It's like, come on, build. There we go. Build. Do things for me. And they still didn't quite build. Oh, well. This is the, time to times where I'm supposed to be signing out. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the series so far. But this is ACryInShame, part of the Long Journey of That team, signing out. Hello everyone, this is ACryInShame, part of the Long Journey of That team. If you like this video, hit the like button below to let us know. If you didn't like it, hit that dislike, and then comment below as to what we could do better so we can improve ourselves. Also, if you want to see more videos made by the Long Journey of That team, hit the subscribe button below and get some notifications through us, or through YouTube, about us. If you want to help us out, you can go ahead and check our Patreon page. Just donate like $1 a month is a lot more than YouTube's been doing to support us. So go ahead, hit those likes, hit those subscribes, and support us if you feel. This is ACryInShame, signing out.